Well, here we are again with the Polaris back in the garage. Issue we're having today is really stiff steering. Went out for the first ride the other day, and I think it's stiff. Should have noticed when I was loading, but I was too excited and didn't pay much attention. Anyways, let's start. I already got it loose, but start by taking this bolt off of the steering arm and seeing if we're stiff in the skis, this lower assembly, or if it's in this assembly and the handlebar is going down. So yeah, probably going to remove the exhaust just to give myself some more room to work in here and start by taking this nut off. So to remove the exhaust on these sleds is fairly straightforward, just takes a little bit of muscle, not much. You got this set of springs here and here, this spring here, and one more spring down there. Best way I've found to remove these, just with a pair of pliers. 1, 2, 3, 4. After you remove those 4, pull the exhaust up and out of the boot down there. That should come off right there. And it comes out. Simple as that. Okay, I got the exhaust removed. I got this bolt disconnected here. I believe it was a 14 millimeter. And next is the air box. And as before, there's a screw down here, right there under the fuel shut-off valve. One opposite right here next to the belt cover. Then I pulled this fuel pump, which is a screw here and here. And this unit, pull the screw here and here. This slide right out of the airbox. And now, with a little bit of wiggling, the airbox should come out. Just watch your boots on the carburetors. Should come up and out of there. Oh, I also disconnected these clips for throttle cables and such. Choke cables. Yeah, the airbox came out of there. It took a little bit of wiggling. It would probably be a heck of a lot easier if you remove the top cover first by just removing these clips. But it is possible to wiggle it out of there. While I'm in here, I should probably replace the fuel filter. Anyways, here's your steering rod coming from the handlebars. And about the only place it could really be super sticky, I believe, is down here where the shaft goes into a housing. And then below that, it comes back out and hits to the T-bar that goes to your steering arms. So, with that being said, there is a grease zert fitting on here that most people probably never grease because it's really hard to see. You can see it with everything hooked up somewhere, but there it is. But it's not easy to find, and most people don't know about that one on these older sleds. So just make sure that gets greased. So let's attempt to pull this apart. So I believe we need to remove these 4 bolts on this bracket down here. It'll be tough for you guys to see. There's 2 on this side, 1 nut, 2 nut, and 2 on the other side, 1 nut, 2 nut. And then the other end of the steering arm right there in the center of the screen. And I believe we also have to disconnect the handlebar here to be able to take the whole assembly out. Should be 4 bolts or 4 nuts, bolts pressed in here. And probably be easier to do that if we take all this cover off, but we're going to attempt to do it without. Okay, we're back. We got those 4 nuts off down there. I believe they were 14 millimeter. I don't even remember what anything is now. I got these 4 nuts off of the bottom of this plate here, holding the handlebars together. And that was a 11 millimeter. And next, I have to get... That pulled the handlebars off, obviously. Next is this Phillips head screw here and one more right there. Take this other bracket off and hopefully this whole thing will come out then. Okay, well, I got the steering rod out. Here's the lower portion that's super stiff. This is the mounting plate that goes to the cross member below the handlebars. And this is where it bolts to the handlebars. Now I was hoping I was fine that this would somehow slide off the shaft, but it doesn't look like it does. So what we're gonna do next, looks like that zerp fitting might be pressed in there. What we're gonna do next is most likely just try and get some kind of cleaner down in the crack and fill this up, maybe heat it up with a torch, get all the old grease out of there the best we can, and refill it with grease. And ideally, I wish this came off and I could sand everything down, paint it, and clean it up, but I don't think that's going to happen today. Quick update, that zerp fitting that was here actually came out pretty easily. It's not what I'm used to with the zerp fitting. It's completely round, so I was able to grab it gently with a pair of ice grips, and it did come out, but it looks like there's not much left for threads on there. So I'll try and run a die over it, but I don't think it's going to be long enough. I'll probably have to replace that zerp fitting there. Okay, so this is what I got going. I don't got a bench vise, so to the front of my boat trailer, I got 2 pairs of ice grips with this unit on there, and putting a wrench on the top and spinning it around and spraying some penetrating oil in here and trying to work it through, and I don't know how well it's going to work. Okay, well, we've tried a few things, and it's not freeing up nearly as fast as we want it to. It'd take me days to use that method. And I don't have a torch, so oven it goes. Let's see here. Got the baking sheet to stop any grease dripping, and hopefully don't start a fire here. This will be interesting. Hopefully I don't ruin the oven either. Alright. Still heating up, but figured I'd throw her in there. We'll give it 15 or 20 minutes and see what happens and keep an eye on it in the meantime. Okay. It's been about 5 minutes. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but there's old shit starting to boil and smoke out of there, so I might give it a few more minutes. Really don't want to start a fire here, so we'll see. Well, things got worse than I thought. I put it in the oven, and I don't know if it warped or what happened, but got even stiffer and harder to turn. So now I'm going to grind this weld out here and try and pull this whole rod out and see what's going on in there. And then, as you can see, I took a punch, feel it closely. I punched the main center tube here and a few punches out just so I can keep everything in a line later on when I need to weld it back together. Okay, here we go. Safety goggles, of course. Okay, well, I didn't get as much video as I wanted, but this is what we've done. So, did end up getting the shaft out of the housing down there. I got it all bolted back in now. Took quite a bit of effort. Ended up having to, cut that bottom end off down there and re-welding it on in the same orientation it was. And if it's a hair off, that's okay, because there's, plenty of adjustment in the steering in multiple areas. But one thing to note is the 4 bolts that hold this housing in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can tell that one there wasn't the original. They are, can't think right now, not lag bolts. Anyways, they got the square ends on the head and they fit into the back between the track and the unit. Well, what I ended up having to do was take a pair of pliers and push the head of the bolt into the hole and wedge a block of wood between the pliers and the track to keep pressure on it while I got the nuts started on this side, because these bolts will just fall out onto the ground as soon as you get the nuts off. But anyways, I put those 4 bolts in. I put these 2 bolts in on this bracket here, 1, 2, and then I bolted the handlebars back on with those 4 bolts. I got the steering rod hooked up, 9/16 nut and bolt on both ends. And now we're just going to keep putting everything back together in the same order we came apart. Before, it took a ton of pressure to steer, and now, just with 2 fingers, I can easily steer, the whole thing. So we're looking good, and we'll put everything back together, and that'll be that. Okay, so let's see here. I got the airbox back in, and I did end up taking this top half off. It's pretty easy. There's just some of these retainer clips all the way around. Just took a little flathead screwdriver, put it in there, and pried them off, and they pop back on super easy. Makes getting the airbox in a lot easier. And put all the accessories bolted back onto the airbox, bolted the airbox itself. That screw there, and one on the other side. And make sure you put all your wires and cables back and all the clips everywhere. And all we gotta do is put the exhaust back on now.